Welcome back to Ferris Sports Update. Time to check in with Bulldog women's basketball. And with us, head coach Kurt Westendorp. And Coach, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be back.
Hard to believe, just 5 games left here in the regular season. It seems like this year's kind of flown by here in the second half of the season.
It really has. I think a lot of times we talk about the basketball season that it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, starting practice in September, October, playing games November, December, January, February, March. This year it's kind of the exact opposite. I feel like it's more of a sprint than a marathon, but it's been a fun year.
Obviously, tough schedule here in the GLIAC. Going into this past weekend, you'd played 4 straight games against teams that have all been nationally ranked here over the past couple weeks.
Yeah, we saw when the schedule came out, just the traditional powers were all on our schedule early, and that's kind of the way that things have happened to fall, like as the games have developed. So we knew we were going to be challenged at the onset. You know, we knew we had to go on the road, but we really think it's been really good for our team to have those challenges, so they know exactly what to expect. They know exactly what the top of the league looks like and what we have to do to get ourselves ready. So down the stretch here, these last 5 games, you know, we got to get ourselves playing some really good basketball going into the conference tournament, because hopefully we have another chance against those teams again.
As we go to this past weekend, took on Saginaw Valley State back here at home, and obviously a team kind of like yourself that's battling for position in the standings, getting ready for postseason play.
Yeah, very similar team to us. They happened to go into Ashland and they got a win. You know, they took Michigan Tech to double overtime. They lost to Grand Valley at home by 1. So really a very similar schedule that they've played and we've played. I think we're both teams that are quite a bit better than our records show. And you could kind of see it throughout the weekend. Both teams were just a little bit inconsistent, you know, throughout the 80 minutes of basketball. But I thought that we did a really good job in that first game of kind of coming out ready to go, especially defensively. We did a really nice job executing our defensive game plan. And then they did a nice job in game 2 of coming back with some different looks, some different actions, and our kids weren't able to really knock down as many shots as we did that first game.
One thing you did well all weekend, forced 20-some turnovers in both games.
Yeah, it was really a point of emphasis for us that they run a lot of ball screens, and we were going to be very aggressive against it. We weren't going to sit back and let them just get the ball to the paint with their 2 talented guards. Maloney and Zaricki are very good when they can get going downhill. So we were trying to get the ball out of their hands early, trying to force some turnovers that happened, but mainly just trying to make them uncomfortable in their offense, which for the most part we did a really good job of that. In day 2, it was just the other stuff that they like to run that kind of gave us a little bit more of an issue when they went to some of their non-ball screen actions.
Obviously here in this first game, Deshauna Day right here with the basket had a nice ball game for you with 14 points.
She did a really nice job. She saw the openings. She had a good matchup defending her. She was a nice job of staying patient. You know, she's someone that can really slither and get through those lanes. She's got a really quick first step, and then she's long for a guard. She can really reach out the basketball and get some finishes where some other players might not be able to. So she did a nice job in game 1.
You're able to hit 8 threes here in this first game. Really opens it up when you're able to knock down the outside shots.
Yeah, we moved the basketball really well. We knocked down 8, and I was talking with you before the second game, and I really felt like that was our floor. I felt like that was about as poor as we could shoot the basketball, and unfortunately on Saturday we kind of proved that wasn't the case. But we moved the ball and we had a lot of looks that we really liked. I felt like in that first game we really outplayed them. You know, it ended up being a 7-point win, but I really felt like we controlled a lot of the game.
I know you never relax as a coach, but how nice is it to win that first game knowing you go into the second game with at least a split on the weekend?
It's a little bit of a different feeling. You know, we've gone in trying to get splits the other way around a couple times this weekend or throughout this season. So it's a little bit different as a coach when you're rewatching that first game. Definitely doesn't change, though, that when you show up for that game, too, it's 0-0. So you have to be focused and locked in and understand as a team, like, okay, we knew how they felt in the other locker room because we had been there before. We knew they were going to come out kind of with guns a-blazing, and they did. They did a really nice job and knocked us on our heels a little bit, even though we had those good vibes coming off of, you know, game 1 win.
This game obviously a little bit different in terms of they were able to hit the outside shot, and you guys didn't shoot maybe quite as well from the outside as you did the first day.
Yeah, they moved the ball really well. Really, they ran a lot of different actions that we didn't see the first day. And when we got scrambling a little bit, our defense was kind of chasing their offense. And when they see the ball go through the basket, you know, they started playing with more and more confidence. You know, a lot of times as a coach, you say energy shouldn't be solely based on if you make or miss shots, but this game really was that way, and that they played with a ton of energy when they saw the ball going through the basket, and we really struggled from the outside, especially early. We had a lot of the same looks that we drew up, we were trying to get, we weren't knocking them down, and, you know, it started to get some frustration into our offensive play, and we started to do some things that were a little out of character because we weren't making shots.
Obviously, down here going into halftime, as we'll see here very shortly. But one thing you guys have done all year long is really battle back in the second half. Did that against Grand Valley just the weekend before a couple times.
Yeah, I think this team, they have a lot of fight in them. It's something that we've seen consistently, that the effort's not really going to be a problem with this group, and I'll really credit some of our leadership for that. The execution is what has to improve. Like, that part has to be quite a bit better, because in that third quarter, we had many opportunities, with not shooting the ball very well. We held them to 10 points for the quarter until the last 45 seconds. They hit back-to-back threes to kind of put it, not to where it was out of reach, but where we had our work really cut out for us in that fourth quarter, where we had put ourselves in a pretty good spot. Even with not shooting the ball well in the third quarter, it was going to be a lot tighter of a ball game.
How much or how important is it to get some production from some of these other players that have stepped up? Deshauna Day, Zoe Anderson had a nice weekend in terms of trying to help out, two of the top threats in the league, in Mallory McCartney and Caden Blanchard.
It's really big for our team that basketball has to move. A lot of our base offense, we're not designing around, okay, Caden gets the shot now or Mal gets the shot. We want to try to run our offense with some fluidity so that the basketball finds the open player, and whoever that open player happens to be that day has to be ready to take the shot and knock down the shot. So when we go set plays, we try to design things maybe around Caden and Mal, maybe a little bit more. But we ran a few things for our post players in day two. A couple little clear outs for Deshauna on game one that really kind of sealed the game for us with her and one late in the game to put it from 3 to 6 with about 2 minutes to go. So it's really great if we can get more production from across the board, but our players just have to stay patient. They have to trust in what we're doing and trust that when the basketball finds them, we trust everybody on this team that we can knock down the open shot.
Obviously, you put this weekend here behind you very quickly. An early week game here against Lake Superior State at home, and then at Purdue Northwest this coming weekend.
Yeah, a little more traditional of a game for us coming up tomorrow. We're on Tuesday against Lake State, and that we played them a month ago, so it's a little bit like a normal season where you play a team and a month later you can kind of rewatch the film, kind of see what they've done recently. They've been playing teams tough. I know their record doesn't show it, but we talked about the GLIAC. Every game you got to show up. I believe, and when we played them the first game, we didn't take the lead for good until there was about 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. So they gave us everything we could handle, and we had a really hot fourth quarter against them. So we're not overlooking them by any stretch of the imagination. We know that it's going to go down to the wire again.
Obviously, Purdue Northwest this weekend, final two games here on the road in the regular season.
Yeah, it's been nice to be at home for a little while, just for the sake of not having to be in a bus and in hotel rooms. But this is our last road trip of the year. They're an explosive offensive team. They have a couple guards that can really put some points on the board. I know Brockington a couple weeks ago had like 37 or 39 in a game. So they're going to be a completely different test than we've seen probably the previous couple weeks. They're a little bit more, they're quicker on the perimeter, but with not as much size. And then defensively, they can provide a little bit more pressure than some of the teams that we've played recently that have been just a little bit more big and strong in the post. So it'll be a completely different style of game that we'll see this upcoming weekend.
Well, Coach, thanks for being with us, and best of luck. 3 games this coming week for the Bulldogs.
Thanks, Rob.
We'll be back with more Ferris Sports Update right after this.